What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Today we're going to talk about boss monsters and why they get so much unjustified and unwarranted hate. Almost anytime a deck is competitive and people feel like it might be overpowered, boss monsters are almost always what people think should get hit, banned, limited, semi-limited first. And I don't really agree with that. Now, these guys have been around for ages. We're talking all the way from fusions to the new guys, the Xyz. That is a Steel Shogun Burrito, if anybody didn't notice, from my old Karakari Machine of Plant deck, in case you couldn't tell. But yes, I think that they're good for archetypes. You know what I mean? There have been a lot of times where a boss monster will simply take a deck over the top, where you've seen a deck have good success, and then a good boss monster will come out, something like Grazaris, and it takes a deck that may have luckily won a Shonen Jump to a deck that wins 6 Shonen Jumps in a row. Maybe that's a little too over the top. Maybe that's a little too powerful. But you see the effect that one boss monster can have to a deck. You know what I mean? And for the most part, people might say, well, that's unhealthy for a deck to dominate. But it doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes you get boss monsters that are very, very powerful, but that the deck would just completely be irrelevant or completely be unplayable without. You know what I mean? If you didn't have these Evolzers, I don't understand how you'd be able to competitively play Evolzer. The Rabbit deck wouldn't even exist, which is kind of besides the point because these aren't actually Rabbit's boss monsters anyway. Rabbit is supposed to be a generic support card, despite the fact that it uses the Evol boss monsters better than Evols themselves. But you look at decks like Karakuri or Lightsworn, where you take away these boss monsters and the deck basically doesn't exist. Now, I'm never for killing off competitive decks unless the deck is just completely dominating and everything else isn't even on the level, isn't even on that same tier as the deck. The importance of boss monsters can easily be proven by the countless amount of decks that have just completely failed. Even decks that Konami has continued to support time and time again. 2 decks that I can think of, and they actually got boss monsters, they just weren't playable. They weren't summonable. You know what I mean? Volcanics. Look at Volcanic Doomfire. Somebody once said that some archetypes get Judgment Dragon and some archetypes get Volcanic Doomfire. And you look at the success over the years and how much success Lightsworn has had versus Volcanics, which never really did anything. I think the biggest flop because of a very, very poor structured boss monster would probably be Crystal Beast. The deck had draw support, it had decent beaters, it had a way to OTK, and then they gave it Rainbow Dragon, which was so incredibly hard to drop, had no defense, and it basically just was a big-ass normal monster, and then the deck couldn't do anything. So, you see time and time again that without the structure of a very good boss monster, a lot of these archetypes will just completely fall on their face. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule. There's exceptions to every rule. You've got decks like Blackwings and Insectors that, for the most part, don't even use their boss monsters, or some would even question what the boss monster is. Initially, when Blackwings came out, we all thought it would be Armor Master, but then they made stronger cards than him, but they were wildly irrelevant because you didn't even really have to rely on using Armor Master that much. The same thing can be said with Insectors. I don't know what the boss monster is in that deck. If it's that bad, rank 6 Exceed, then, God help them because no one ever summons that thing. So you see that there are isolated events, and sometimes even tournament results show you that just hitting the boss monster really doesn't do anything to the deck. That sometimes there are other cards that even though they don't get the spotlight, can be more productive than the boss monster itself. Lightsworn is probably the best example. Judgment Dragon went to 2 and Lumina went to 1. Now, the deck obviously had other hits, but you saw the effect where Lightsworn kind of just dropped off the end of the planet. Even when they got 3 copies of Judgment Dragon, everybody lost their mind, but the deck really didn't do much. You know what I mean? This is for all intents and purposes why I think, it's a little ridiculous for something like Shien to be limited right now when 6 Samurais really aren't doing that much. You know what I mean? I don't understand why. Personally, I don't even think any synchro should be limited right now in the game, except for like Boronic. That's not counting the banned ones like Dark Strike Fighter and Goyo or whatever. But the point of this video is that boss monsters are important to the game. when you see one that looks very, very strong, everybody's inclination is to automatically assume, oh, that card should be banned. What the hell is Konami Research and Development doing? The card's too powerful. But then you look at the other 8 or 9 decks that they try and make over the course of 3 or 4 sets that fail, and everybody looks at this like, damn, man, I wish these were more playable. So, I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too, guys. That's all I'm trying to say with this video. I think boss monsters are good. You know what I mean? As long as they're not completely crazy and it's not just completely killing the format, I think that they're perfectly healthy for the game, even if they are overpowered. You know, they have to be overpowered for their archetypes to succeed. If Judgment Dragon only had 1800 attack, I really don't think Lightsworn would have been successful. If Krazaris only blew up 1 card, the deck wouldn't have been successful. If Lagia, you know, had 200 attack, or excuse me, that's a little ridiculous. If Lagia only had 1500 attack, you know, the deck wouldn't be that successful. So these guys have to be powerful because their archetypes basically rely on them. So let me know what you guys thought of my boss monster discussion, and let me know what you guys think is a deck that deserves a better boss monster. I guess I should have talked about that a little more, you know, because I've always dreamed of Crystal Armed Dragon. I think that that would be such a ridiculously and awesome card. So thanks for watching, and remember, click an ad. That would make you very, very happy. Thank you.